From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White. A new report says shortly after they were elected, some MPs began wittingly assisting foreign state actors. That includes sending confidential information to Indian officials. The report is from a committee of MPs and senators with top security clearance. But Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc won't comment on specifics.
I think this, again, is an example where certain information doesn't have the caveats that some of the intelligence documents that we would see have.
The National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians was asked to assess foreign interference in federal electoral processes, including meddling attempts in the last two federal elections. Sensitive personal information on 19 BC government employees may have been accessed during a cyber attack on the province's networks last month. But BC Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth says so far it doesn't look like the breach extended outside government.
These were employee files, and with one exception being an employee who had family information on their inbox. At this time, we have no indication that the general public's information was accessed.
He says the investigation is continuing, but evidence shows a state or state-sponsored actor was likely responsible. The National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations says all levels of government have failed to act on the recommendations from the inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak says just 2 of more than 150 recommendations focused on First Nations people have been enacted. Advocates have made constant calls for more funding for Indigenous housing, justice, and programs for LGBTQ people they say would help keep women and girls safer. Canada's municipalities will share more than $500 million in federal funding to fend off the effects of climate change. But the money is a drop in the bucket compared to the bills towns and cities face for things like fires, floods, and other severe weather. A 2020 analysis for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Insurance Bureau of Canada said local governments need $5.3 billion a year to adapt to climate change. MPs and senators raised the pride flag on Parliament Hill this morning, marking the beginning of Pride Month. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says when he first marched in pride parades in 2016, some people questioned if it was relevant for the Prime Minister to take part.
Nobody's going to ask me that question, whether it's still relevant to be marching in pride parades, whether it's still important to be standing up as allies, whether it's still meaningful that pride is, yes, a wonderful celebration, but also a protest.
Trudeau condemned what he called rising hate against LGBTQ plus people, particularly transgender youth. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, the CFL has moved the Elks season opener against the Saskatchewan Roughriders to an afternoon start. That's so Edmonton sports fans can also watch the Oilers in Saturday's Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. The game was originally set for 5 Saturday afternoon Mountain Time. Kickoff will now be 3 hours earlier. Top seed Novak Djokovic came back to beat Francisco Cerundolo in 5 sets in the French Open's 4th round. Djokovic trailed 2-1 in sets before rallying for his record 370th win in a Grand Slam match, breaking a tie with Roger Federer. And the Jonas Brothers will perform at the Grey Cup.
And I'm shaking for going under. Baby, who's gonna temperature?
They'll be the halftime entertainment at the 2024 Grey Cup game in Vancouver. The Jonas Brothers performed in Vancouver last November during their tour in support of The Album. The CFL title game will be held November 17th at BC Place Stadium. From the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White.